All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to this week's Stock Market Outlook video. As usual, we'll cover the market indexes, leading themes, as well as the individual stocks that have been leading, could start leading soon, and I'll overall give you my take on the market health and where we're at, and we're potentially at a really important turning point based off this Action Friday and where we are within this overall trend. So a lot to cover today. Stick around into the end. This is brought to you by DeepView, which is the charting software right here that you're seeing, and that is my daily driver for screening, charting, and everything related to trading. Definitely check this out if you haven't yet. In my opinion, it is the best trading platform, charting platform for can-slim type traders, swing traders, and really whatever style you trade. We've got so many different features that can help you find high potential stocks better and stay on top of those top ideas. Also, I do want to mention we just released another free resource over at TraderLion. This is the model book of the 2023 market leaders. We've got a ton, I believe over a dozen stocks analyzed in here, both from a technical and fundamental perspective. All you have to do is visit traderline.com/2023-modelbook, and we'll go ahead and link that down below as well, so you don't have to type that out. So this link will be in the description, and just a sneak preview of the model book. You can see, I believe, over 70 pages, and we go through for each kind of top stock, what it looked like from a fundamental perspective, what drove its move, what did it look like before its move, how did it set up, and just an example here with App, which was one of the leaders last year and continues to perform really, really well. We give you the overall perspective and also do a great job annotating key points. Let me actually flip this around so you can see. There we go. You can see we annotate the entire move, point out potential entry points, key pivot points, key position management points as well, to really help you, study this move and hopefully learn from it to catch the next batch of leaders. So highly recommend this resource, 100% free. Just go ahead and check out the link down below in the description, enter your information down here, and you can see some nice testimonials here from obviously traders we really respect, and we sent an early version of the model book to them for their feedback, and this is their thoughts here. So definitely check this out if you haven't already. With that said, let's keep on going and go right into the market indexes. So let's go ahead and start with the QQQ. Obviously, we're in this channel. We're above a rising 21 and 50 SMA. So both from those perspectives and those time frames, we're still in an uptrend, but there are some signs of caution, at least in the short term, most namely this close on Friday, where we tried to push up, formed a downside reversal after approaching the top of this channel once again. And we're, just above that 21 EMA. We're kind of approaching it. And for me, the expectation from this bar is, sideways or lower. You see a pickup in volume. Obviously, this is the QQQ, but overall, a lot of stocks also showed this type of action, reversal action. A lot of the leaders that we'll cover later on in the video tried to push through pivots today and were rejected down from them, or they were kind of already in trend and showed reversal bars taking out the prior day's lows. So some signs of intermediate and very short-term weakness, but we remain overall in this uptrend. So you can't get too bearish. We're right near new highs, but in the short term, this to me says we might consolidate. We'll probably test that 21 EMA. We might chop sideways for a few weeks, but the overall trend is still up. The longer term trend is still up, and it might just be time for, as I said, some consolidation and some base building, which should set up the next batch of opportunities. But make sure that you're ready, you're being proactive. Were you too exposed as we were kind of getting extended toward the top of this channel? Individual stocks were extended as well. What can you do better next time to prepare for an event like this? And going forward, if we do continue to correct, what actions are you going to take? Have you graded your holdings from top performers to worst performers? Do you know what stocks you would cut first? Are you moving up your stops? Are you following your position management rules? All of that should be set in place. So all it's basically about is execution and making sure that you keep your equity curve near highs if we do continue to correct. But we remain above those key levels, the 21 EMA, this channel, as well as the 50. But the end of the week suggested that we could see some more short-term weakness. And we also see kind of the semiconductor group as a whole, which has been the leading group, show some weakness as well, which is another tell that we might be in for some more chops. So that's a quick thing about the QQQ. Bringing up the IWO, this gives you more of a perspective of the smaller cap names, how they're doing. You can see we're also above a rising 21, 50, and 200-day moving average. We're above this base pivot. We were in a nice trend, but once again, we had a gap up, try to push higher, and a really heavy reversal. To me, again, short-term expectation is a little bit of weakness. We'll see how this bar consolidates. If we try to push lower and then have a hammer candle, we could be right back into that uptrend. Same with the QQQ. But if we see another bar like this or a tight day and then a bar continuation lower, that to me suggests we might need something more like a consolidation like this, or just more choppy sideways action. But how this bar follows through is pretty important, so that will be on watch starting next week. But we're above the moving averages, we're above this base pivot, and this is just kind of a reversal within the context of an overall uptrend. So both the QQQ and IWO, short-term weakness maybe is the expectation, but we are in a nice trend as of this moment. Taking a look now at the themes. Obviously, the ones we've been focused on are semiconductors, AI, biotech has been strong, blockchain names have been very, very strong. Software in general has been trending. Cybersecurity has been a leading group. That took a hit a little bit this past week, and we'll take a look at that in just a second with CrowdStrike. But those have been the themes that have been working really, really well. Looking at the percent change today, looks like MSOS, the cannabis stocks, were the top performers. Blockchain also progressed nicely, and we'll take a look at coin, MSTR in just a second. TAN acting well. We've got online commerce acting pretty well. GLD, these names have been acting really well as gold kind of broke out. So the miners are something to take note of, and that's something outside the tech space that could be an option if you're looking to put some money to work, follow that rotation. But in general, the same groups are kind of still at the top here, but the semis in particular, if we scroll all the way down, not quite sure where they are, but yeah, semis, SMH all the way down, down almost 4% as a group today. Hack, cybersecurity, that theme is losing a little bit of speed at least today. So those are some key things to be aware of. And you can see the closing ranges as well from all of these ETFs, in the lower third primarily. Again, that kind of sets the expectation that we could see some continuation lower to start next week. But obviously, you always have to be ready for whatever could happen. We could gap up, and that could fully negate the reversals and closes well off highs that we saw today on Friday. But just in general, in terms of themes, keep an eye out for cannabis names if they're setting up. Blockchain continues to be strong. That's really been trending, so there's not really low risk buy points. But the real big thing to be aware of, especially on the defensive end, is the kind of weakness in semis and the reversals there, and we'll see if we get fall through to the downside. So with that said, let's actually take a look at a bunch of those names right here. Let's load up deep list, my wide list, and bring that up. So let's go ahead and sort it by, let's sort it by group actually. So there's a nice handy thing you can do in deep view. We'll sort them all by group, so you can see software all together, semis all together, all of that. You can see what I've been focusing on primarily. Let's go through some key names. We won't cover all of these, but we'll cover the important ones. So first, looking at coin, these names have been very, very strong. You had opportunities, on the wedge pop here, EMA crossback, didn't quite get, too many days flagging back into the EMAs, but that had another nice opportunity here on the gap and go. Then we pushed very, very strongly up to the base pivot, and we corrected nicely, found support at this prior level, pulled back into the 10 EMA, upside reversal. This was the other key opportunity here on the reversal, as well as the nice push higher. Then we had a nice flag and continuation upwards, and acting really strong relative to the market and other stocks. And let's open this up just a little bit here. But right now, this is just trending. It's above all the moving averages. It's in a nice uptrend, but there's no real kind of actionable spot. And, this close well off highs suggests a little bit of weakness. And, based on this move, it just would likely chop around, form a consolidation. But, something to be aware of in the short term. But overall, it's just in a nice trend. It's shown the potential to trend really nicely. But just watch out for moments like this where we pull back hard into the moving average and then continue lower. That would suggest that there needs to be more base building, but that 21 EMA is still rising up to meet price really nicely. I also want to bring up Hood, which has been acting really well since this gap up, consolidation and push higher, just holding that 21 EMA. So these names are acting really strong. CLSK is another name that is in this group that's acting really well. Let's bring up that chart. You can see really nice push off lows, actionable near the moving averages here. Then you had a really nice swing move right here. Then it pulled back very hard, pulled back into the 21 EMA. So we see a lot of these kind of breakouts that turn into pullbacks at 21 EMA. That's a pattern that we've seen more and more. But it found support in this area and re-broke out and was strong in the past 2 days when a lot of stocks and from those traditional groups that we talked about, semis especially today, we're pulling back pretty hard. So this stood out to me. This, for my trading style is more of a swing trade type name just because it's so volatile. Obviously, it can make extraordinary moves up 23% in a day, but it's just a little bit tougher to manage that risk because you can, fall as fast as you rise. So you always have to be aware of that and, sell to strength more and not look to play for a huge move, but play those momentum moves within a longer term move. Coin is a little bit less volatile, more of a smoother mover. Not to say it isn't volatile, but it's just easier to hold that trend and respect those moving averages just a little bit more. So this is more of the position trade type name. Obviously, you can swing trade this as well. It's just kind of a matter of personal preference. But this theme, continues to stand out. Is probably the strongest right now, looking at what the semis are doing. Speaking of which, let's take a look at NVIDIA and load that up. You can see the large reversal on very high volume, the highest volume in quite some time. It's been trending beautifully above that 10 EMA, except for this short-term dip before earnings. And now it is, in danger of falling back below that moving average, which is held for this entire run, which would be, pretty much a changing character outside of this spot here. But as long as it remains above the 21 EMA, you can't get too negative on it. But, into this accelerated move, it'd be prudent to sell some into strength. Then, as it broke a low, you could have sold more. And maybe you're down to a half position if you're more of a position trader. If you're a swing trader, with this type of move, if you entered, on this push up from the U-turn after earnings, you're likely out of this at this point. But, this type of bar just suggests to me that it needs time. It's going to chop around. It might form a whole new base. We don't know just yet. We'll see how things act next week. Again, if we gap up Monday and keep pushing higher, that suggests that this, momentum push isn't done yet. But we'll have to see if there's further weakness, if it holds at 10 EMA and then below that 21 EMA. But huge volume coming in today and a very negative price bar suggesting some short-term weakness. And it wasn't just, restricted to NVIDIA. I'll bring up AMD as well. We see that downside reversal action, again, suggesting short-term weakness. We try to push up higher. Would have been a great day if we closed at, these highs, but instead we reverse and pretty much take out these lows. And again, maybe a test of that 10 EMA, maybe the top of this prior base pivot, which pretty much lines up with that 21 EMA. And ARM as well, breaking back below this pivot, which has been kind of a turning point. You've got a little bit of some pivots up here now, but still holding that 21 EMA. But short term, we'll see if this follows through to the downside. The other theme that I want to highlight, which has been losing steam, is the cybersecurity names. CrowdStrike obviously pulled back very hard into earnings, then gapped up, and then the next day the market sold it off. So the institutions use this to sell some into strength. Obviously, they've been accumulating really since the beginning of last year. But as you get further in the trend, especially on earnings gaps, just the likelihood of a potential move after that just gets a little bit weaker. The first few gaps, the first one or two especially, are often playable in a new theme because institutions are likely accumulating at that point. But as the stock gets more extended from the 200-day moving average, it gets longer in its trend. These gaps potentially start, basing periods where institutions use it to lock in profits. We held at 21 EMA and still are so far, but we do see a reversal similar to what we've seen before that could suggest, in the short term, further weakness, but we'll have to see what happens. There's a few other names like Sentinel, ZS that are also kind of showing that weakness. PanW, of course, with the gap down. And we'll just have to see how this theme acts, but looks like, chop basing is in the cards for the next few days, potentially weeks after this nice move. And another base like this would set up some really nice opportunities. It's still not too late in the move, but basically any supply that's coming to market here from earlier participants, whether they're institutions or traders, funds, whatever it is, those shares that are being sold now need to be exchanged for longer term holders, larger institutions that see a bright future for crowd, even despite the current valuation, however they deem the stock. That process takes place in a base like this where shares get accumulated, any supply gets dried up. So we'll just have to wait and see for when that happens. But we still remain above a rising 21 EMA. So again, it's not just dead right now, but we'll have to see what happens. And I don't like the look of this reversal after earnings. Moving on, let's take a look at some other key names. CELH has been one of the strongest stocks in the market, just continuing, grinding higher after this nice earnings move. Could have entered through this high, through this low, however you want to play it. It moved very fast that earnings day, and hasn't really given you a chance to get in since then. Maybe it was actionable on this day after a little bit of consolidation day the next day, but has yet to form a pullback to the 10 EMA or anything like that. But really nice move up the right hand side of this longer term base. Uber as well, this one reversed today. A lot of this type of action, which when you see in the stocks that have been leading and trending nicely, gives you a little bit of pause. You can see we had a similar reversal here. We had a gap up, close lower. We did continue higher, but then we kind of treaded water sideways for the next few weeks. So this type of action is just a sign. It doesn't mean you sell everything depending on your costs and objectives, but it's just something to take note of. That may suggest that we need some basing, consolidating, and the trend might be getting a little bit tired in the short term. But we'll have to see what happens. If we close near highs, we could be talking about a potential breakout into new highs. But instead, we reverse lower and we're being defensive and watching these lows, and that 21 EMA is a great gauge as well. Kava, this has been a good name after earnings, but again, even though it pushed higher today, it closed right near the open, which is near the lows. So we'll see what happens. Does this gap get filled? Does it let those moving averages to catch up? This is still just very, very new. It just broke out through the IPO highs. So if this sets up another base, I would definitely say this would be a top opportunity given their runway. And also if we bring up the stats table, good expected growth from this name. But overall in the short term, this is a little bit of weakness. Also want to bring up Meta, and we'll talk a little bit of the mega caps. Similar reversal. Apple, this has been the weakest. Let me actually type Apple, bringing that chart up. This has been the weakest, but we're at a key support level. We'll see if we can hold this low that it put in, but you see the close well off highs, so potentially you get some continuation lower. Tesla, not because it's in focus, but just because I know a lot of people will ask about that. Let's bring up Tesla here. This is just in a downtrend again, right at this key level. We're also near this level here, but we're just below those moving averages and just not a focus and not a look of a stock that's under accumulation. We're looking for uptrends, not downtrends, both from a long-term as well as short-term perspective. MSFT, let me actually type, sorry about that. MSFT, we'll bring that up. You can see this is a little bit stronger trending, but now it's just kind of base building. Not the worst day today, and we're above some of the moving averages, but just going sideways, and wasn't really able to push any higher after it filled this gap. So we'll see if this can make another move like this out of this base. But as of right now, it's just kind of in no man's land. So that's pretty much it for stocks I want to focus on. Let me know your thoughts about the market down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts, a few stocks that you are watching that are standing out in terms of relative strength. CLH definitely is bucking the trend. This is where you want to take note on a day like this where we had a heavy reversal. What stocks are green? What groups are green together? That's how you notice where the money is flowing and what could be happening next and where the rotation could be going. So thanks so much for tuning in. I really hope you found this valuable. If you did, please go ahead and take the time right now to leave me a like down below. Really helps me out as well as my channel. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this one every single week. And with that, thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in future videos. Take care.